Welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365, August 8th. 10 days of practice are in the books. 1 day out from the Eagles' first preseason game. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning?
Good. Yeah, a little bit gloomy out as we're dealing with some weather. We'll see how that affects the game in Baltimore. But yeah, we're getting through it. I mean, at least I don't have to go to practice today. The 4 days in a row is a grind. The grind, Xander.
It is a grind, and you're doing great work, and everybody on the channel the numbers have been great. Everybody's appreciated you checking in every day and doing the mornings and doing the nights. So I think everybody who listens to JAKIB Sports, who listens to Birds 365, feels like they're up to date on this team, Johnny Mac, and that's thanks to you. So we appreciate the hard work. John, we haven't gotten it in a couple days, man. That's a shame on me. How's the calf feeling? Is it getting back to 100%? Are you creeping up closer to 100%?
Creeping up. I told Nick Sirianni, no timetable. No timetable. Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that. You bring it up because last night was the first day I didn't ice it when I went to bed, and I was just sick of it. And I was like, all right, I'm feeling a little bit better. And it was a mistake. I should have done it, but you learn from your mistakes. Don't repeat them.
Good stuff, John. Hopefully you ice that sucker up. You can get ready to rumble for the preseason game tomorrow night. You got a little bit of time here, though. You got today, and then you got, I guess, tomorrow in the morning. What time do you head down there tomorrow?
A group of us are going to head down about 2:30ish, somewhere in that range. MT and Bank Stadium, which evidently we're told they rebuilt their press box, and they made a bunch of mistakes, and there might not be great sight lines, which is a first. So I kind of chuckled. You have to request a credential, parking, and a sight line. So we'll see how it looks when we get down there, which is embarrassing for them.
Who's their architect?
That's what I said. I mean, come on, Baltimore.
Yeah, come on, man. You got to check your
body.
So
you're going to be talking about a new stadium down there pretty quickly. I guarantee you that.
Got to cross your T's and dot your I's. And it doesn't seem like they did it, Johnny Mac. All right, well, we got a good show planned today. Coming in down the home stretch of, I guess, coming down the stretch into the first game here. They got through the dog days of summer, the 4 days. We've talked about the roster. We've talked about who's looked good and bad in camp. So a lot going on, which is good stuff. I want to welcome everybody in today. A lot of good people in here. A lot of new members, Johnny Mac. We added a ton of members yesterday, thanks to James Carver, who dropped 100 gifts. So thank you for that, James. And then plenty, I think 22 others signed up to be a member yesterday. So 122 members yesterday.
Everybody wants that Saquon jersey.
They can't get enough of them, John. And there was just a clip going around on social media of Saquon talking about how much he loved people wearing his jersey.
There we go.
So you got to get in, everybody. If you want to get in, make sure you become a member. We'll be giving away up to 20 Saquon jerseys this year. And I got some other ideas too to give away some more than that. I don't just want to stop there. I want to give back to the people who have made the channel so great. So we appreciate each and every one of you. Jeff Kerr's coming up in around 13 minutes. He's been at practice all week, so we'll talk to him, get his perspective on what he's seen. And then in hour number 2, a first-time guest on the show, Josh Davis, the host of the Philly Special Show on YouTube. He does tremendous work on YouTube, growing like a weed over there, and he does a great job. So we'll talk to Josh Davis in hour number 2. He's a friend of Thomas Mott. We had Thomas Mott on once. Now we're going to get Josh, and hopefully we can keep those guys in the rotation here on Birds 365 for a different perspective. So excited to talk to Josh, excited to talk to Jeff. Johnny Mac, what are you thinking on this Thursday now that the dust has settled on the 4-day run of the dog days? You know, when you hit the pillow last night, I'm sure you weren't thinking about the Eagles, but for the sake of the conversation, what was running through your mind when you think about this team after 10 practices, 4 straight, about halfway through training camp, I guess you could say, somewhere in that range? What are you thinking about, when you think about the Eagles right now? What sticks out to you from a storyline perspective?
Feel very good about the offense and where that is. And, a lot of questions about the defense, which I don't think is much of a surprise from where people thought this team would be going into training camp. The offense looks good on paper and has lived up to it for the most part. Very sharp camp from Jalen Hurts, as we've discussed, and A.J. Brown, the consistency from day to day, and Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert has been in that category as well. Brandt Calcaterra taking a step up. Not only Saquon Barkley, but Kenny Gainwell's having a big camp in the backfield. So everything's positive on the offensive side of the football, with the potential exception of right guard trying to figure that out, which seems to be a work in progress. And the third wide receiver spot, which is probably not going to be that important anyway, when it comes to traffic, at least, and actual barring injury. You cross your fingers from that, but that's everybody. That's every team in the NFL. Defensively, I get the kind of feeling I mentioned the linebacker churn yesterday in practice number 10. To me, it should be going the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I harken back to last year when they were rotating the safeties next to Reed Blankenship and trying to figure out who they were going to be. And it was pretty much a lot of Terrell Edmonds, and all of a sudden popping up late in camp was Justin Evans. And people forget Justin because he had the injury history, and same thing happened here. But if you do forget, he ended up being the starting safety week 1 before he got hurt. And that sort of popped up and surprised everybody. And Sean Desai was out there late in camp and saying that was the plan to get him. It was not the plan. They were just not happy with what they were seeing in other players. And that might be going on at linebacker right now as they try to ramp up Jeremiah Trotter Jr. as quickly as possible and try to figure out, what they have and what they really have in Devin White and Nakobe Dean. I do think Zach Bond's been pretty solid, but again, you don't want to build the foundation of your linebacker group on a guy who's never played off-ball linebacker on a consistent basis, I would think.
Right.
So that is a big question mark. And then corner, I think, is less of a question mark because you got a bunch of talented players. And I think if Rodgers is out there, you're going to be fine. If Ringo's out there, you're going to be fine. If Quignon's out there, you're going to be fine. So from a standpoint, and that doesn't mean they're not going to give up plays. They're all going to give up plays. They're all young players. They're all inexperienced. But it means that they're talented enough and they'll be okay. My only questions there are how the Eagles have gone about it and gone about getting Quinyon Mitchell ready, which I think is it's kind of backwards, but that's what Vic believes. And Vic's going to do what he wants to do. And he said right off the top of the bat, way back in the spring, he said, I throw a lot at him early and then scale it back. Well, he threw a lot at Quinyon Mitchell early, and we'll see when the scale back comes. I hope it's outside. I hope it's right corner, but we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, when Cooper gets back, it's going to be interesting to see. Like, do they just move Quinyon right to the outside, and then Isaiah and Keeley are back to fighting for playing time? Like, I don't know. I feel like part of me feels that Isaiah has earned at least some reps on the outside corner, but you got to think they're going to prioritize the first rounder. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they do when Cooper DeJean gets back.
I think Isaiah Rodgers is a good player, but I'm at for those who watch, I don't want to bring up my Chester Taylor story because, Quinyon Mitchell isn't Adrian Peterson, and B, Isaiah Rodgers isn't Chester Taylor. So, that was a really good running back being replaced by a Hall of Fame running back in this instance. But, F Isaiah Rodgers. Sorry, dude.
Right.
I mean, that's Quignon's spot. And that's the goal. And that's where the Eagles are going. And, help us a kick returner, help us be a backup and all that kind of stuff. And that's great depth.
But John, for those who haven't heard the story, I don't want people to be like, "Oh, John McMullen said F Isaiah." What's the story? Just real quick, so,
Well,
so people know that you're not saying
I
F
was
Isaiah
covering
Rod.
I was covering the Vikings at the time, and when they drafted Adrian Peterson with like the 7th overall, somewhere in the top 10. I was saying to myself, I mean, I didn't know Adrian was going to turn into what he turned into. Otherwise, he would have been the first pick in the draft. And different time with running backs, obviously a little bit, but you know, one of the greatest pure runners of all time from a speed, power perspective, everything involved. But they had Chester Taylor was coming off a great season. He had about 1,300 yards rushing. He was good in the backfield. He had 400 or 500 yards receiving. He was really good. And they weren't a good team. Obviously, they were picking in the top 10, so you're not very good, barring a trade. And they had a bunch of needs. So I asked one of the personnel people behind the scenes, but you got a lot of needs. Why are you taking? You got Chester. Why are you taking a running back? And he said, "Yeah, hey, dude." He said, "I love Chester Taylor. F Chester. You haven't seen this kid." And he was 100% right when he was
Yes, he
talking it.
was.
And that's it doesn't mean Isaiah's bad. It's just look, you don't have the ceiling of Quinyon Mitchell. And Vic said it the other
And they don't have
day.
they don't have the investment in you, the equity in you.
They don't have and that's no guarantee that he's going to turn into a star. But you see everything about Quinyon Mitchell. You see the ball skills. You see the eyes. You see the ability to break on the football. You see the fact that he's never really played inside, and he can play inside, and he's playing dime, and he's doing all this stuff, and he doesn't look overwhelmed. It's like that's where I say, people worried about getting Isaiah Rodgers playing time. No, I don't. I mean, no, I don't care. I want Quinyon Mitchell out there, and I want Cooper DeJean out there. Now, that's the more difficult part because he's not back yet. We got to wait to see when he gets back and how quickly he can ramp up. So it seems like the Eagles are willing to kick Mitchell inside while he gets ready, and then they'll kick him outside. But I don't want to mess with that. And the Eagles seem okay, and we'll see who's right.
We'll see what they end up doing. I think you're right, though. I think they're going to get Quinyon Mitchell out there right away, and we'll see, what ends up happening with Keeley and Isaiah and the other guys fighting. You think DeJean's when he gets back, he'll get slotted right in there at the nickel corner?
Well, no, I don't think he's going to step in day one and be the starting nickel corner, but I think ultimately he's going to be the starting nickel corner this year at some point. It's just
They'll
a matter.
rotate him in at practice and then ramp him up, I would imagine. Yeah,
it's just a matter if it's week 3, week 4, week 8. But the good thing is if you are playing, and whether it's Avonte Maddox in the slot or even Tyler Hall, and if it's Isaiah Rodgers outside or Keely Ringo, I mean, the luxury of playing time, if you play well, nobody's taking you off the field. So if you have that opportunity and you seize it, nobody's taking you off the field. In other words, if Isaiah plays well and they're not going to just stick Quinyon out there when Cooper's ready, just to stick Quinyon out there. So he'll have an opportunity if he gets to start week 1. So don't feel bad for him.
Yeah, he'll be good. We'll see what ends up happening. The linebacker one is another interesting one. You talked about that already this morning. The Nakobe Dean train seems to be slowing down, losing fuel. I don't know. It might refuel up very quickly if the season rolls around and he's out there and he's looking okay. But so far in practice, it hasn't been anything special from Nakobe Dean. Struggling in coverage. Still think he's going to be the starting linebacker week 1?
I do. I'm dwindling, and certainly there aren't.
At what rate of speed are you dwindling, John McMullen?
Well, it dwindles by the day where, Nakobe doesn't look at least competent in coverage because he's been fine in the other aspects. Not great, but fine. And as long as he gets to a level where he's not going to hurt you dramatically in coverage, I think he's going to be one of the starting linebackers, and I think he'll get there. I do think a lot of people ignore, we were just talking about with Cooper, ignore injuries, and his was far more serious. And the assumption is, oh, he's cleared. He's 100%. He's ready. There's still that ramp up period. And he struggled in the coverage part of it. And that's part of it. In my estimation, is that he's still trying to knock some of the rust off. And some of these guys, like Kenny Gainwell, crossing him over like his Allen Iverson at the link. I mean, they're pretty athletic. So if you're not at an optimum level, you can look bad at times. And I think as he continues to get more reps, he'll settle down. But I mean, I also have to be honest. And one of the reasons I end up, and I still in the thought process that Nakobe's eventually going to be a starter, is because the other guys aren't that good.
Right.
So it's not like I'm saying he's going to be Roquan Smith or anybody. Just there's not a lot of options that are going to get people excited other than the people that want to generate and manufacture excitement. And you can do that with any team at any position, because there's a lot of good players in the NFL, and they were good in college, as kind of Vic dismissed with Nakobe. He did it in college. Yes, he did. But it's a different ball game here. So, I can't get dramatically excited about Devin White and Zach Bond, but plenty of Eagles fans have talked themselves into that. And I don't think
it does seem like, look, I'm not down there, but I will say, just from your reports, from all the other reporters I've read, Ed Kratz, Jeff Kerr, who's down there, who's going to join us in a couple minutes here. It does seem like Zach Bond is the guy that's doing what Vic requires linebackers to do in his defense the best of all of them. I don't know. That might not mean he's a good going to be a good linebacker. But
well,
from that perspective, I think Vic is going to want him on the field.
Another thing about practice that I try to bring up is nobody's game planning for practice. Nobody's trying to take advantage of perceived weaknesses in practices. When you get to the preparation standpoint of the NFL, the game planning standpoint, I think opposing coaches are going to look at the Eagles defense and say, all right, we can take advantage of these guys in coverage. And they're going to game plan to take advantage of those guys in coverage. Whomever you like at linebacker, they're going to game plan to get those guys in one-on-one situations. And then it becomes more difficult. Like right now, they're just practicing to get better each play. Get 1% better, the old cliche. Kellen Moore's not game planning to beat Vic Fangio or vice versa. They're just trying to get their players better and reps and get them up to speed. And when you start game planning and the opposing coaches, some of them are good and some of them aren't so good, but the good ones are going to look at that group and say, I can do some things against that group.
We'll see what ends up happening. Moving right along, one day out from that first preseason game. By the way, I don't know. I just checked because everyone's like, oh, what channel do I watch the game on tomorrow? I don't know what the heck channel. It says, to me, it says ABC and Fox, but it says not available in my area based on where I am, and I'm right outside of Philadelphia.
Well, there's always a local component. I don't know. We're going to have Jeff.
Yeah, we're going to have
probably not. I assume it's, I don't know. NBC 10 is, I think, the Eagles' local affiliate.
Yeah, I just didn't know because the Olympics, so I didn't know if that would be.
Yeah, the Olympics play into it. It might be 17. It might get bumped. It'll be on somewhere locally.
It's got to be somewhere locally, or else I might have to activate the NFL Plus subscription, which still might give me the blackout. So we'll see. I'll figure that out.
Let me check out the Eagle. Well, Jeff's here. Jeff will know. He's well versed in the minutia.
Yeah, he is. Jeff is a lot of specialties, and those are one of them. Let's get to our first commercial break. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Already a good crowd. Nice comment here from Jay Perfect. Thanks, Jay. He says, you guys do a hell of a job in the morning. Long-time listener. In today's day and age, no one says thank you. Just want to say thank you guys for making the offseason interesting. Jay, thank you, man. We appreciate that. Hopefully the season will be just as interesting, maybe a lot more interesting, hopefully.
I do appreciate that. He's right. Nobody says thank you anymore.
Yeah,
I do appreciate
I brought that up. That's nice of you. Jay, thank you, brother. We appreciate you for being here. Jeff Kerr coming up next, everybody. He's been down at camp. We'll get his perspective, what he's seen at practice, what he's seen from Nakobe Dean, Saquon Barkley, the right guard position, all the questions of training camp so far. We'll talk to Jeff Kerr about.
We got, by the way, it's on Cozy TV.
Yeah, that's what somebody just commented. Another guy's like, what the hell
I
is
don't even know.
TV?
I don't even know what that is. I don't know what that is.
I got no clue what Cozy TV is. I'm sure it's cost like $70 or $80 a month, so I won't be subscribing to that.
What the hell is going on?
I might have to like boot stream the Eagles preseason game. I might have to get on like crackstreams.com or whatever it is to
we definitely need Jeff Kerr to explain to me what the hell Cozy TV is. All
right, Johnny Mac. Let's get to our break. We'll get to Jeff Kerr on the other side. Appreciate everybody being here. Make sure you guys smash that like button. We'll be right back with Jeff Kerr on the other side.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.